Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Wickland's Virtual Classroom, where we're going to be looking at number sense, and we're going to be looking at multiplying two-digit numbers by multiples of 10, and we're going to look at multiplying two digits by two digits. So, when we're multiplying by multiples of 10, it's fairly simple, but we're going to go through it so that way you can kind of see the process and kind of see what we do in order to make it a little bit easier on you. And so what I mean by that is what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 37 times 2. Okay? It's just some simple multiplication, a little bit of regrouping, which is no problem because you've done this. So 2 times 7, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. As you remember, I can only write the ones digit in there. I need to regroup. 2 times 3, 2, 4, 6. Add 1, so I get 7. So you can kind of see what happens when we multiply with the ones, okay? Because that's what we have. We have ones. Now, when we move into multiplying by multiples of 10, and you're always going to have 0 in the 1 spot, we know that anything multiplied by 0 is going to give 0. So for instance, if I multiply, because you got to do it the same way, you multiply the ones, then the tens. So 7 times 0 is going to give me 0. Okay? And 0 times 3 is going to give me 0. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply now using the tens column. Now, because we've already done the ones, you're going to have a 0 starting out because there are no ones, because we're not multiplying by ones, we're multiplying by the tens. Okay? Not to mention you get a 0 here because even if we did have, say, a 1 here, that's taking care of the ones. This is still 20. Okay? So if we had 21, we're still multiplying by 20. So either way, you're going to end up with 0 because you're using tens, which means there are 0 ones. So you start with a 0. It's going to be crucial to remember this later on. Then you do your normal multiplication. So you do 2 times 7 and you do 2 times 3. So 2 times 7, as we know, is 14. We carry 2 times 3 is 6. So what you need to do is you add the top and the bottom together, and you're going to get 640. Now Mr. Wickland made a mistake because he didn't add the 1. Remember you guys talking about me not making mistakes? I do make mistakes. I apologize. It's going to be 740. So what is the difference between these two answers right here? The only difference is that we added a 0 on the end here, and there was a 0 added on the end over here. So I say that to say this. All those zeros is going to give us 0, 0, 7, 0, 3, 0. Then if we do our 2 and we multiply, what are we going to get? We're going to get 74. So guys, what we need to do and what we need to remember is that when you're doing multiples of 10, just add a 0 on the end and then multiply by whatever number ends in the 10 spot. Okay, let's take a look. This is what you're going to see in your book. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 24 times 30. So we're going to use my method that I used here. This is method 1, by the way, and this is method 2. Always more than one way to solve it. So we're going to use method 2. So right off the bat, you see that we have a 0. So we're going to put a 0 down there, just like what I did up here. Okay? And then what I'm going to do, because 0 times 4 and 0 times 2 gives me 0, so I'm going to put 0, and I'm just going to multiply with the 3, okay, in the 10 spot. So 3 times 4 gives me what? 12. I add my 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Add my 1 is 7. Okay? So, again, we have a 0 on the end. Start with the 0 down below. Okay, and then you just multiply using your 10 spot. All right, let's do another example. So again, we have 0 here, so we just add a 0 on the end. And then we multiply using our 4. So 4 times 8 is 32. Add a 3. 4 times 2, 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. 9, 10, 11. We're going to get 1120. Okay, it's pretty simple when we're doing multiples of 10, guys. You just add a 0 onto the end, and then you multiply with the 10 spot. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing here. So in your book, in the first part, what it does is it wants you to do the first 2 steps of multiplication. So I'm just going to do a quick 28 times 40. We'll just do it again. I want you to do the first 2 steps. So basically I want you to add the 0, because that's step 1. You multiply these by 0, you get 0. That is going to be step 1 always. And because if you look here, 0 plus 0 gave us 0. So therefore we can just write 0 up there. And then the next stage would be to multiply this together. So then you would get 2 and then regroup. That's the first 2 steps. Okay? There's 3 steps really all together, and the third step would be to multiply this. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do all 3 steps down here. So again, step number 1, multiply by 0, you get 0. Then step number 2, you multiply 2 times 5, we get 10. We carry. That's step number 2. And step number 3 is multiply my 10s together. So 10, 11. 3 steps. Okay, 3 steps, guys. This is not very difficult. It's fairly easy. It's just multiplying by 10, and what we do is we just add a 0 on the end. So let's continue. 0 times 2, 0 times 3. It's always going to give us 0, just like what I did up here. Remember, 0 and 0. Then when I put a 0 down here, because I'm doing my 10s, again, I'm just adding 0 plus 0. I'm just taking a shortcut, and I'm just going to put the 0 in right away, because it's always going to be 0 when you're doing multiples of 10 only. Now we do step 2. What's 3 times 2? 6. Step number 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So 960. Guys, it's just simple multiplication. Okay. Now here's where it's going to get interesting, is because we're going to be doing multiplication 2 digits by 2 digits. Okay, now again, when I showed you method number 1 above, right here, and I went through, notice how long this was. Okay, because I got to multiply the 1s first, then, which is here, the 1s, then I multiply the 10s. Okay, and I add it together. It's like when I expand it out. Okay, when we do expanded form, right, we do the 1s first, and then we do the 10s, and so you add them together after that, after you expand it. So I'm going to take you through, and we're just going to look at step number 1. And so step number 1 is pretty simply, what we do is we multiply the 1s. That's going to be step number 1. So step number 1, multiply the 1. And what I mean by that is we're going to do 6 times 8, and we're going to do 6 times 2. Okay, so 6 times 8 is, so 8 times 5 I know is 40. I add 8 on, I get 48. I carry. 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's the 1s. Okay, and that's all we're going to do for step number 1. Step number 1 is just do the first step in multiplication. Step number 2 then lies, so basically what we've done is we've done 28 times 6, and we figured it out to be 168. Step number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the 10s right here. Okay, so we already know that we have 168, because that was step number 1. if you remember. It's right up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the tens. Again, we're multiplying by the tens. We're not doing anything with this anymore. Okay? We're not doing anything with that. And technically, we're multiplying by 20. Okay? We're multiplying by 20. So this step is actually 28 times 20. What did we learn about when we multiply multiples of 10? We add 0 on the end. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a 0. Some people like to color it in. Some people just leave it, which means that it's just a 0 because there is nothing we're multiplying by here. It's just added in because we're multiplying tens. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our numbers together. So 2 times 8, which is 16, and we're going to add a 1. 2 times 2 is 4, adding 1 gives us 5. Okay? So that's steps 1 and 2. Okay, steps 1 and 2 have been complete. So step 2 is multiply the tens digit. Okay, and so we get 28 times 20, which equals 560. And guys, step number 3 is pretty simple. What we're going to do is we add it together. Okay, we add these two numbers together. Alright, so that's all we're going to do. Step number 3, when I have here, I have multiply by the tens. Okay, so multiple of 10. That's why I have multiply by. So therefore, what we're going to get is we're going to use this, multiplying by with the tens. Alright, step number 3 is pretty simple. Step number 3 is add together. So we're going to add these two numbers together, okay? So 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 6 is 12. I need to carry a 1. Okay, and 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And I can do the same thing here. 8, 2, carry my 1, 7. And so basically, guys, what we're doing is we're just taking this number, we're breaking it down. We multiply the ones digit first, okay, go up, go over, and then what we do, the ones, then what we do is we multiply the tens digits together, and we get this number down here. All right, and so because we're multiplying by 20, 28 20s is 560. Okay, you can count up by 20 till you get to 28 on your fingers, and you're going to get 560, not 56. And I can prove that just by skip counting by 20 at least 3 times. 20, 40, 60. That's 3 times I skip counted by 20, and I already got more than 56. That's why it is crucial that you add the 0. Plus, we're multiplying by a multiple of 10. And we looked earlier that when we multiply by a multiple of 10, you add that 0 in there. Okay? Because what we're doing is we're multiplying by tens. And you guys know that when you multiply by 10, you add 1 0. And that's what we did. Okay? Last step, step number 3, we add everything together and we end up getting 728. Alright guys, that is multiplication with 2 digits by 2 digits. Okay, we do 3 steps. Step number 1, you multiply the ones digit. Step number 2, you multiply the tens digit, you add them together, and you get your answer, and that's step number 3. Okay guys, it is fairly easy. Follow this video. If you are unsure of what to do, please watch this section again. Okay, and you can always ask me questions. This is Mr. Wicklum signing off.